Hello everyone, welcome back. The referendum is a yes or no proposition about Indigenous Australians. But have you wondered what it's got to do with you? And let's just say, for the sake of our discussion, that you are a non-Indigenous Australian. So have you found yourself wanting to do the right thing for Indigenous Australians? If you've been thinking that you want to do the right thing by Indigenous Australians, that's okay, but I think we need to talk about it. I want to explore two ideas. Firstly, the referendum ahead of us is truly about every single one of us, not just the 3%. Secondly, I'm going to ask you to reflect whether your voting intention might be a bit patronising. Now, we need to be really clear that the Constitution affects us all. It is the blueprint for governing the country on behalf of every single Australian, no matter how you identify, where you or your parents or any of your ancestors were born, all 100% of us, without division or favourites. We used to have a white Australia policy, and I think Prime Minister Harold Holt should be remembered for dismantling it in 1966, and obviously before he went missing in the ocean. The following year, we voted in the famous 1967 referendum. Following these, there's been a great deal has been done to overcome our dark past, such as to combat racial discrimination, to acknowledge native title, and much more. I raise these because they demonstrate that while, yes, bad things happened in our past, as a nation, we have made huge efforts to deal with our dark history by legislation and social change. Now, if we fast forward to 2023, to today, all Australians very rightly enjoy equality as citizens. Whatever your circumstances, at least in terms of the Constitution, every Australian citizen ought to be equal. The Prime Minister's referendum is proposing a voice as well as treaties and a truth-telling agency. Now, these are substantial changes to the national administration, and they will come at a very substantial cost. And perhaps the true cost is far more than just money taken from other budgets. I wonder if it will cost us in terms of our social cohesion, our sense of community, our belief in equity, how we identify as Australians. How you vote will have implications for all 100% of us. Maybe it's through changes in budgets or service eligibility. Maybe it's through preferential treatment. So to summarise my first big point today, it's that the referendum ahead of us has the potential to affect the future of every single Australian in perpetuity. It is not something that just relates to the 3% Indigenous population, as porous and ill-defined and ununified as we are. So please don't vote as a sort of vicarious vote on behalf of Indigenous Australians because you think it's the right thing to do. I encourage you to be selfish when you think about how you are going to vote. Now, this leads me to my second big point. I want to stay with this hypothetical idea that you are thinking of voting selflessly or vicariously. If your voting motivation is based on doing the right thing, then I would encourage you to reflect on whether your show of kindness and friendliness is actually more a comment about your own circumstances because of how you feel relative to the headlines of Indigenous disadvantage. I want you to consider if there's a risk of your voting intention or motivation being patronising. A yes vote might be considered patronising if it seems friendly, for instance, voting yes because it's the right thing to do for those poor Indigenous disadvantaged people, but actually the underlying feeling is one of superiority. Think about that. If you think Indigenous people are incapable of getting ahead in life without your yes vote, then yeah, there's a risk it's patronising. If you think that this won't affect you or your family and it's only about Indigenous people, then again, there's a risk that it's patronising. So I really encourage you to reflect on the motivation behind your voting intention, and please get talking so that when you vote, you know why you are voting one way or the other. That's all from me today. Please subscribe, turn on post notifications, share your comments down below, and please check out our webpage for a bunch of different ways to learn and collaborate with us. See you soon. One last thing. Did you know that the humble ginger nut biscuit actually has 4 different recipes based on the state or territory in which you live? I'll put a link below. You can check it out for yourself. Authorised by Wesley of the Centre for Indigenous Training, Albert Street, Brisbane. Yeah, that is very good with a cup of tea. Do you dunk? Yeah. That's good.